2005 without understanding the reasons why we have Social Security and what it's supposed to provide for our retirement, you can get sucked into this. So I want to go over this so you understand why this is such a bad idea.
And regardless if the concept is good or not, the emotional connectivity to the success of American industry is really important. When you know at 22 that you could get this thing that's been compounding for 22 years.
All right, pause it for a second. Now, they're talking about retirement funds. Now, here's what we know. Prior to the 80s, most pensions were guaranteed benefit. That is as opposed to guaranteed contribution. Guaranteed benefit means that when you're 21...
I know Sam Seder doesn't play about Social Security because Sam puts Andrew, some washed-up comedian, in his place. Andrew should stick to laughing at his own boring-ass jokes. Guys like him are the reason I don't watch stand-up comedy anymore. He writes his jokes with crayons, not exactly the guy you want for an economic critique. This is truly a heinous situation we find ourselves in.
I recognize the comedian in there.
Well, comedian, I
Andrew
mean,
Schulz.
He's a Rogan-verse guy who has parlayed that into a Netflix special, so he's promoting it on,
Wasn't he originally an MTV guy, too?
I feel like I actually think I saw him at the Comedy Cellar one time. But,
oh, well,
regardless.
all right, sorry.
Regardless.
I've never thought he was funny, but he's a comedian, yes.
This is like, it's fascinating. And I think the guy is, he seems like a smart guy to me on some level. I saw like a podcast, I think it was his, where he was talking about the Theocrat, the exchange on Jubilee with the Theocrat that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody sent me that, but they weren't really addressing what we were talking about, and they apparently didn't see what the premise of the thing was, which is when I was arguing.
Make sure to subscribe and give us a like. We are trying to build a progressive platform. We have too many conservatives flooding the market. Help us fight the good fight.
Soy boy.
But the point is in this, is that these guys offer something which on its face sounds enticing. And without knowing the history of this proposal, this is what George W. Bush tried to do in 2005, without understanding the reasons why we have Social Security and what it's supposed to provide for our retirement, you can get sucked into this. So I want to go over this so you understand why this is such a bad idea.
And regardless if the concept is good or not, the emotional connectivity to the success of American industry is really important. When you know at 22 that you could get this thing that's been compounding for 22 years.
All right, pause it for a second. Now, they're talking about retirement funds. Now, here's what we know. Prior to the 80s, most pensions were guaranteed benefit. That is as opposed to guaranteed contribution. Guaranteed benefit means that when you're 21, or whatever age you are, 18 or 24, you get a job, and they tell you part of your compensation package is that when you retire, 20 years, 25 years from now, you're going to get X dollars a month. $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, whatever it is deferred compensation for you. Guaranteed, though, $2,000 a month. You can count on that. That is traditionally been one element of the three-legged stool that will provide for you in retirement. The other is just savings that you might have or assets. Maybe you bought a house and you sell it, you downsize, you take money from that. And the third is social insurance, which anchors it, and that is Social Security. That was the plan for Social Security. One leg of a three-legged stool, and it was the most secure one. In fact, so much so that they call it Social Security. In the 80s, because people didn't want to fund these pensions, they turned them into defined contribution. In other words, the amount of money that you pay in, that's defined. But the amount of money you get out, well, we're going to put it into the gambling thing.
We're going to leave it to the whims of the market.
To the market.
As opposed to being just a traditional defined benefit pension plan.
And they promoted things called 401ks.
Yep.
And if you Google the words, the failure of the 401k experiment, you will see that people, for better or for worse, left to their own devices, underfund their 401ks, pull money out of their 401ks. We are on the verge of a retirement crisis because of this. These are just starting to hit. People have been counting on these 401ks to hit retirement. 5 minutes of research will tell you what everybody on Wall Street knows. These things, they've enriched Wall Street people because somebody's going to manage them.
Yep.
Somebody's getting fees. But they have not provided for people's other legs of retirement. But they are thinking, what if instead of taking Social Security and investing it in treasuries like our government does, which is basically investing in the financial soundness of the most widely used currency in the world, the US dollar, what if we took all that money and put it into the stock market where we're going to get much higher returns? Listen to how they talk about it.
Get this thing that's been compounding for 22 years. You could pay off some college loans. You could put something down on a house. You could pay for trade school, whatever it is. I think you have a different energy towards America and its success. And then you have a lot less of these kids who are just like, America's this horrible place and capitalism is bad. Yeah, capitalism is bad when you're left behind. When you're invested in capitalism, it's
okay. I'm sorry. This is actually perfect to pull up that chart just really quickly from FT. This is from Gallup data that's been aggregated from. It's a very small sample size of 70,000 people, according to the Financial Times. Views of young people in the United States on aspects of politics and society have deteriorated. And it's unfortunate Financial Times doesn't do the greatest y-axis, but it's all starting at 2010 to 2024. The respondents are age 15 to 29 years old, and it's a rolling 3 survey average. And you can see confidence in the judicial system tanked since 2010. Good affordable housing in the city. This is extremely material and borne out by data. Housing prices are as high as they've ever been and are a part of the cost of living crisis we're living in right now. Confidence in the national government plummeted. I mean, this is also Trump's
all
dynamic.
of this stuff basically starts around when Trump gets in office.
I mean, true, but experiencing stress. Some of this is cell phones and anxiety. But the point is that it is the lack of recovery still from the financial crisis, and now they're putting more money into crypto and sports betting. These young men that these guys are speaking to, trying to sell them the promise that they're saying, as opposed to building up our social programs like Social Security.
Well, here is Schultz's argument, is that you would get people to invest. If you get them to literally invest in America, it would raise those that polling. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it was in response to that. He's making this argument.
Yeah, if everyone could get money for nothing, that'd be great.
I will also tell you that George W. Bush had a concept of ownership society.
It's incredible to me that the richest people in this country feel comfortable getting on a camera and saying we should gamble Social Security on the continued growth of the American economy when they personally are demolishing the public sector.
This is all part and parcel, and it sounds sexy. If you have skin in the game in American industry and you see the wonder of compounding interest, well, just play.
Absolutely. We're on the express train.
Let me give you guys, I did an analysis. I wasn't sure if I should put it out, but I'll tell you guys the numbers. The U.S. Social Security program is meant to be kind of the retirement program for folks that don't have access to private retirement accounts. Okay.
Pause it. That is a lie. That is not what it's meant to be. It's meant to be one leg of a 3-legged stool. It is supposed to be the anchor, the guarantee that you don't live in poverty. That's it. It's not to make you a millionaire. It's not to make it so that you can, winter in the Bahamas. It is to make sure that you do not end up literally eating cat food in your retirement. It was introduced because we had almost 2/3 of our elderly living in poverty. So he's lying about what Social Security is supposed to do. And it's the premise of everything that follows, which sounds reasonable as long as you have a wrong premise.
And he's also implying it's not universal.
Good.
Okay. And this program was set up